Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Friday. Welcome to the market close report for Friday, the 31st of July. Well, the Aussie market had a very interesting end to another month. In fact, at one stage, we were up by around 1%. And then the market ran out of steam, basically falling quite significantly from those highs. We still managed to edge a little higher over the day, though, by around 9 points for the ASX 200, but that's a gain of just 0.1% to 8,976. Not overly surprising to see that type of movement, considering that 9,000 points, an important psychological barrier for our market, has been tested in the past few days. In fact, a couple of days ago, we cracked through 9,000 points for the first time in 3.5 months. We also basically hit a 5-month high a couple of days ago as well. We've had a very strong week. So in 5 days, our share market has basically gained by 2.3%. It made all the difference this month and has actually made this one of the better months we've had in a while. So we're up 2.3% this month, 4 straight months of improvements as well. And it means that at least this month, we've managed to outperform many other markets around the world with, of course, just one session remaining in the US and European trading hours, which could, of course, change that a bit tonight. But adding to this, we've got a bank holiday next Monday, which means volumes might be a tad light, but markets perhaps just getting prepared for that session. And also, we've got, of course, a week filled with plenty of earnings, both in the United States and also in Australia as well. As far as what we saw locally across the sectors today, it really was mixed. We had a number of outperformers. The materials did best, lifting about 1.4%. The rest of the improvers were a bit more modest with their gains. Looking at the losers, the worst performers ended up being healthcare, which still remain by far the worst performers of the year so far. So they fell heavily. And we've also had consumer staples falling by about 1.3%, but they do remain one of the better performers since the start of this year. If we look at the best performers on the market today, 4D Medical was a standout. It rose by 13.1%. Now, this is a group that sells medical software. It's been expanding quite a bit recently in the United States, and it came out with a set of quarterly results today. Now, over the past 3 months, it struck a 3-year commercial agreement with an operator of more than 170 imaging centers across 10 states in the United States, amongst other wins as well. And a reminder that 4D Medical was one of the best performers on our share market over the past financial year. So just a reminder that it rose about 718% between Jan and December 2025. So it certainly has had that really strong improvement. On Origin Energy, not the best performer, but it deserves a mention. It came out with an update today. It rose around 1%. It's basically said there's been increased demand from data center customers with for electricity, so that helped with electricity volumes. And it also flagged a big lift in customers at its Octopus Energy unit. So it's got a lift of more than 2.2 million customers there. Monadelphous, an engineering group, up by close to 3%, and this was after winning a $165 million contract with Rio Tinto. So it's going to do a bunch of work there to build out some infrastructure in the Pilbara region of WA. And then Mayne Pharma was up 2.3% today. The pharmaceutical group bouncing back from what was a pretty ugly initial reaction to some unaudited results, which were out earlier in the day. Now, the stock was down about 3% at one stage when these results were out. Revenue over the 3 months to June fell by about 22%. Profits have also slumped as well. But look, the stock managed to stage an impressive comeback. If we look at the losers today, we had WiseTech down around 4.2%. Now, a broker made a significant cut to its share price target for where it thinks the logistics group might be in 12 months' time. Still, it does follow 4 very strong gains for the company. It rose about 19% this week, but it's halved since the start of this year. So it is going to be an interesting time for the stock when it releases its results next month. Domino's down around 5.2%, so a pretty heavy decline there. Now, a couple of days ago, it was out with some earnings and essentially an earnings update, rather, and it basically said that maybe a bit of profit taking today, I think, is on the cards, but essentially in these results, there were mixed numbers, in line with guidance, maybe not quite as bad as what the market had been expecting, but still, sales, as far as same-store sales are concerned, were down across all of its major markets. That includes Australia and New Zealand, just across Asia and also Europe as well. But still, it's had a decent week. It actually rose 15% over the prior 2 days. So profit taking on the final day of the month. CSL down around 3.8%. But again, a similar boat in that it follows a 7% lift on Wednesday when it announced a clinical trial, which is about improving plasma processes. And then Fortescue Metals, certainly an underperformer against its peers today. It was down 1.9%. Now, it flagged a $525 million impairment on one of its major projects in WA. So its shares were down today as well. Now, if we look forward from here, and I've already pointed out that Monday is a bank holiday, which could keep volumes a tad light, but it still is a normal trading day for markets on Monday. So we'll also be here for the morning and afternoon reports as well. The market's going to continue watching any developments out of the Middle East. That goes without saying, but really what we've seen in recent months is there's been a trend that a lot can actually happen over the course of the weekend that can actually set us up for either gains or losses in the early part of our week. Now, the US earnings season is going to ramp up further in the week ahead. We're going to have stocks like AMD, Pfizer, Macca's, Disney, Shopify, SanDisk, the chip maker, which has been one of the better performers recently, Uber and eBay. When I say recently, this is, going back over the past year or so. And locally, we've got the earnings season, I guess, unofficially kicking off in Australia. So we're going to have stocks like AMP, Nick Scali and James Hardy out with results next week. But really, it's the second half of August. That's when all the more of the interesting stuff will be released. That's when we get the longest list of Aussie listed companies that will be out with their figures. Now, as far as currencies go today, we had the Aussie strengthening against most over the course of the day. That's from where it was earlier this morning. So the Aussie sits at around 70.3 US. It also strengthened against the Euro and the Japanese yen. Well, that wraps things up for the week. Hope you had a good one. Enjoy the weekend, everyone. We look forward to chatting again on Monday.